to officially open up this special board meeting for the Cordova Recreation and Park District on our preliminary budget by Matt Goodell. We're all looking forward to a great presentation.
Members of the public can view the meeting live on YouTube, and the link is posted on the agenda. Members of the public are hereby notified that meetings of the Board of Directors are recorded, and requests for video recordings may be made to the clerk of the board. If a member of the public wishes to make a general public comment or a comment on a certain agenda item, please submit a blue speaker card to the clerk of the board, and speaker cards are available at the table at the back of the room.
Great. And are we taking a roll call? Are we doing the pledge? Roll call.
We'll do the standing action item really quick first. So this is the portion of the meeting where we deal with any requests to join remotely through AB 2449, and we receive no requests under the emergency cause provision, so we'll list it as no action taken.
Great. Then we'll have a roll call, please.
Director Danzel?
Here.
Director Irwin?
Here.
Vice Chair Langen?
Here.
Chair Sloan?
Here.
And we received advance notification that Secretary Mattis would be absent.
Great. I think that takes us into our public comment.
So at a special meeting, the public comment period is limited to only those items described on this agenda per California Government Code. Members of the public may comment when the items are heard. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. The board is prohibited from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on this agenda. And at this time, we have no speaker cards.
That brings us to item C, our work session with Matt Goodell.
All right, item C, work session for fiscal year 2025-2026 preliminary budget. And at this time, we receive no speaker cards. So I will turn it over to CFO Matt Goodell.
All right, thank you, Clerk Golden. Chair Sloan, board members, welcome to the 67th budget work session. Outline for today's workshop topics are here in front of you. We're going to talk about the budget timeline, the approach and budget styles that are used, general highlights and notes, the account groups, list of capital improvement projects, and the final message. So let's get into it. All right, so a similar budget process as we've done in previous years, with a few changes. The budget process typically begins in January and continues through on to completion in August. It always starts with finance preparing revenue estimations, right, in January, and then we create budget management worksheets for staff to complete. And departments take it from there, and they put together their thoughtful operational spending proposals. We have 45 different budget segments that are involved, and also while they're thinking about potential projects as well for that coming year. On April 17th, staff held an internal capital improvements workshop to discuss project priorities. Following that, management reviewed and produced the recommended projects from that list, along with the operational proposals. On May 5th, the public committee meetings were held for both the Budget and Finance Committee and the brand new Capital Improvement Projects ad hoc to review those budget proposals. Finance then prepared the reports and forms that we have in today's proceedings. Also note that the Park Maintenance and Recreation Improvement District, the PMRD Oversight Committee, met on March 24, 2005 to elect officers, to review the current status of projects, and also to discuss budget priorities for next year. That committee met again recently, just Monday on June 16, to discuss the proposed preliminary budget that's offered here tonight. Next steps after this workshop is going to take the preliminary budget proposal to the regular board meeting for approval, and then after that we'll file with the county, and staff will work with departments about any need for adjustments or oversights, and of course we'll include any unfinished or unpaid projects to encumber to that final budget. So finally, August 16th, we'll present the second public meeting to achieve the board approval for the final budget book. Woo-hoo. So again, pretty similar process to last year. Same as the styles, but we do use multiple styles when we create the budget. Traditional, meaning that we take prior historical data, we also parallel that with trends that are used in calculating the revenue resources and the spending plans for specific departments of administration, facilities, parks, and our utility costs. We use activity-based for recreation. They do this in reviewing the activities and what each program will cost based on participation, and the fees associated with that for aquatics, leagues, teens, seniors, camps, trips, sports, and rentals. So everything that we have to offer. Priority-driven is an approach used by planning and the capital improvement plan team, and strategically recommending projects and repairs based on contractual, safety, leverage, revenue-generating, stakeholder, and board and staff input. For our district, these approaches have proven in providing best outcomes and really hitting the target or getting close to the target, right? All right. So what are the underlying themes and messages surrounding this upcoming budget? I feel like I say this every year, but the housing market continues to be hot, right? Again. But to get into some details about it, the city portion of our district had an unprecedented building permits for new homes pulled in 2024. They had 1,088 permits pulled during the year. Put that in perspective, the last 4 years, in 2020, 21, 22, and 23, we had about 600 pulled. And I think we felt busy back then. So to have double that almost pulled in last year is just crazy. And so the first quarter of 2025 also, we looked at it, it had 218. So we're still tracking on that crazy pace of a lot of permits being pulled. But with that said, staff is attempting to be close as possible to a status quo budget due to potential looming economical concerns. There's a lot of uncertainty out there. So meaning that our goal was to not take on additional new things. That's staff, equipment, and new amenities, one-time expenses, unless they're absolutely necessary. Parks is adjusting with this. His district continues to grow, but the ultimate goal is to keep us in a position that we avoid any future layoffs, cuts, freezes. That's definitely a position we don't want to be in, and we want to be as conservative as possible. With that, Finance recommends the maximum tax for assessment funds to maintain that status quo budget, and the ability to tackle maintenance projects and our major capital improvements can continue. This year, staff is recommending around 38 projects. I think when we met with the ad hoc committee, we were around 33, so we added a few more. Design development of 4 parks, 2 neighborhood and preserve, Montalena Community Park, and the Grantline 208 Arista del Sol Community Park. And construction of 3 new parks, the Ranch Community Park and 2 neighborhood parks, Butterfly and Monarch. And finally, something very cool happened. CRPD received the Distinguished Budget Award from the Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA. This recognition states that the district prepares budget books of the highest quality. Everyone knew that already, but that's awesome to be recognized. So this plaque that we received will be presented, accepted, and photographed at tonight's regular meeting. But here, I'll show it to you. Give you a sneak peek before we present it later on.
Nice.
That's a huge deal. Huge deal. Finance is getting tired of all the parks and people getting awards, so we went for one. So, awesome. So we'll talk about that later. So let's dive into the budget proposals. All right, so the district budget overview, we of course take a look at major group accounts. And the first one is TENS labor. We're at $11.5 million. We're a third of our overall budget, and I think we're about a third of our overall budget last year as well. I did budget for a step increase, and the benefits that HR has presented earlier did increase as well, so that's why it was a little bit higher than last year. 20s for service supplies and materials at $9 million. It was 8.4 last year. It's 28% of our budget. 30s debt service at $800,000, which is 2% of our budget, which is an amazing ratio to have 2% debt of our overall budget. It's a good place to be. Again, similar to last year. And then 40s fixed assets, which include new development at almost $7 million. This is the real reason why our budget is higher than last year. It really falls into this category about new park development. Capital improvement projects at $3.9 million, and that includes major replacement and maintenance projects. And then equipment for parks, services, and golf course at around $400,000, about 1%. So this fixed assets represents a third of our budget, about $11 million, and just really shows our commitment to the community and the importance of our parks. Next up is 50s transfers. This amount represents the reimbursement for payments of general fund operations and projects, which will be managed from the capital improvement fund. So it's payment back to it for $18 million. On both sides, it nets out. 80s, great decade, are for resale of our commodities and goods. And again, it's about $114,000. I think that was the same as last year. And this is mainly from our golf pro shop resale of goods. And so that brings us to our total budget of $32.6 million, very large t-shirt. How are we going to pay for that? That's a good question. So that leaves us with the 90s in our resources and our revenue. And so tax revenue and recreation cost recovery is the first big bulk, and so that's what we're getting next year, is about $22 million, and so we're going to apply that, of course, to pay for some of those costs. And that's 68% of that side of the budget. Next up is our project fund to pay for our projects, $3.8 million. And then we have a park impact fee at the city, when all the builders and developers go pay for their permits collected over there, that we'll draw from to pay for our new parks. And that's 21%. So that total actually ends up being $183,000 more than the 32.6 that's being asked of the spending plan. So we are putting back a little bit in reserves, about $183,000. Not much, but it's on the right side of the ledger. So that will balance out our budget in a summary nutshell, $32.6 million. Any questions so far before we move on into the details?
I guess on the bottom of this one, it says by group, that's for the resources used, or is that for?
Correct.
Okay.
So that makes the 32 million based on the expense groups that it's in. So 10 labor, 20 services, 30 debt, 40 fixed assets, and then 80 the commodities. So that all equals the 32 million.
Okay.
Just the visual representation.
Yeah.
With the cool icons, right? And those are great.
I like the Superman.
Well, yeah, we're superpower, right? We're superheroes. That's our labor force.
Correct.
Anybody wearing the t-shirt? No, no one's wearing the t-shirt. Okay. Should have a t-shirt. All right, so let's peel back a layer, and we'll take a look at the 10s. Labor, salaries, wages, taxes, and benefits. The time period that we look at when we do the budget show the minimal increase in inflation is around 1%. Therefore, staff at this time is not recommending an adjustment to salaries known as COLA, cost of living increase adjustment. We're still gathering information from peer districts to see what they're doing, and so if our peer districts are doing a COLA, maybe we'll look into adding it into the final and see if it can fit. But as of now, the preliminary budget does not include an adjustment. With major growth happening, as mentioned, park planning department is looking to grow as well with the park project manager. This will increase our full-time staffing positions from 73 last year to 74 moving forward to this year. So again, we're taking that conservative approach. And yeah, recreation, specifically aquatics, part-time is increasing about 5,800 hours, about a 5% increase from last year to manage the classes and programs that they're planning to offer. So that's the major changes in labor. Also in the 10s that we pay for is our unfunded accrued pension liability. We've talked about this in the past. It's the gap from what our planned retirement assets are versus what we owe in liabilities. And so that gap is about $6 million. Sounds like a lot, but again, it's something that's ongoing for every agency that we've been reporting since 2013. So yeah, so our assets are about 15 million, our liabilities are 21 million. So if we ended today, that's what would be due, but variables will change, right? More employment, more growth, ages, market value. There's a lot of variables that happen. So to put this in perspective, the amount funded is a key indicator. Again, we're at 75% funded. When this measurement was first adopted in 2014, we were 63% funded. So out of the gate, we're kind of behind to start. About 4 years later, we moved to 70%, and since then we've been above 70% since 2017, with the highest in 2022 at 86% funded, and that's just making the minimum payment, not doing anything else extra. And so again, it's just volatile, and as long as to me it falls between the 70 and 95% funded for our retirement plan, we're in a good place. Any questions about the UAL?
Can you explain a little bit more why we wouldn't want to pay it off? Because
Yes.
I know that's been a question in the past.
Yep, so like again, we started at 63% and we jumped up to 86% over time, but we did, just making the minimum payment. If we paid that off, and that happens where the market goes crazy or the assumptions change where we benefit that and have more assets than liabilities, they have our money right now, they're holding on to our money. And we can't get that back, we can't get it credited, we can't get it refunded, and so we're losing out on having that cash flow in our pockets. So that's why I say I want to be under 95% as a goal, never 100%. So, yeah, we lose out on holding on to that money. Good question. All right. So next big group is our 20s, service supplies and materials. It's at $9 million this year. Again, it was about 8.4 last year, so about $600,000 more. Again, try to stay status quo as possible. Of course, things cost more, especially water. This table represents our 20 highest line items in the 20s budget, which is about 80% of our total budget. It's funny how that works out that way, but it does. The only change, when I compared it to last year, we had one new expense added on the list, and that was 2571 contracted security services. It jumped up to 142,000, and it was under 100,000 last year. And that's because we have to have additional security at our facilities. We typically use them for overnight to protect our park and facilities, but we have to use them during the day, during recreational activities, to protect our staff and our customers. So we have to add in a budget for that. Other than that, everything's pretty straightforward as it was last year. No major changes or shifts. Any comment about the 20s group? All right. Debt service, 30s. So right now, we're looking at about 800,000, same as last year, roughly. No new debt being requested. We have the same existing loans that we've had past few years, starting with the Mather Sports Complex at $300,000. We have a year and a half left to pay off that remaining $448,000, so that's fantastic. We'll be off the books in 2027. The other one that will be on for a while, in 2048, is our COP, our 2018 pool bond that we did. We still have about $7 million left on that, so that'll be around for a while. And we also have a list of park services and golf carts, mowers, ongoing leases that are included in this category as well for about $200,000. So again, our debt's $800,000, 2% of our overall budget, which I think is a fantastic place to be. So we jump into new development next. Again, like I said, we're looking to have an estimated amount of $7 million in park impact fees, another 8.5 in park fee credits. And what that means is when the developer builder comes to pay their permit fee, they don't have to pay the full amount because they're going to build the park out of cost for us, okay? And so I think Ranch Community Park is being built that way. Yep. So again, we have foreign design, Grant Line 208, Arista del Sol, Montelena, and the Preserve neighborhood parks, showing their acres and park impact fees. And then in construction, we have three, the Ranch Community Park, Butterfly, and Monarch, which is incredible about the amount of growth that we have going on, but there it is. Any questions about new park development? We have our planning staff here today. So shout out to Laura Taylor and Terry. No? All right, next is the big list of 38 projects that we have, the capital improvement plan. 38 projects benefiting 13 parks, pretty much all our facilities, 5 facilities, and 4 trail corridors. We have projects in all 5 districts, and they're listed in that order by district. I won't go into detail, but they range from playground repairs, irrigation repairs, new pathways, remote ball field lighting, which is incredible, resurfing tennis courts, parking lots, and then the major one is the field turf replacement at the Mather Sports Complex South Soccer Field. And so again, these are projects that we highlighted at the ad hoc meeting, the Budget Finance Committee, PMRD has reviewed these, and our CIP team. So we feel comfortable that these high priority projects go forward. But if there are any particular questions or comment about any of these projects in your area, outside your area, feel free. Yep, Brian Dansel?
The courtyard, so are we talking all the buildings for that roof repair at 39,000? Or are we talking?
No,
the
just
actual building or?
Just one of the buildings.
Okay.
Yep.
It's like the other one says building, earlier it says building 2, so I was just trying to figure out what building in the courtyard was.
It's a big building, I know, because we have, all staff submitted before pictures of all these projects, and we reviewed them in our CIP committee, and so I know it was a big roof. It was one of the big buildings in the courtyard.
Okay.
All right. Again, it's a good list. Everything's in there, including the kitchen sink, so, well, actually, no kitchen sink this one, but. All right, 43, equipment. This is the purchasing of it, not leasing it. We're buying these pieces outright for park services and golf course. Listed here, we have 2 trucks, we have mowers, we have trailers, we have sprayers, other small equipment necessary to provide excellent customer service. And I know park staff appreciates this part of the budget a lot. Obviously, having the tools and being safe and new stuff is really, really good. So I know they appreciate it. Again, nothing outrageous. I tell them to stay within this budget, and they do, and they ask for the pieces that they absolutely need. So there's our equipment. All right, transfers and a summary of our CRPD cost allocation plan. Note that the general fund still continues to pay for the majority of operation costs, and this year the capital improvement fund is going to manage the project funding side of things, so it's going to be funded through the transfer. There is a potential that the VOZ, Villages of Zinfandel, will not be able to pay their fair share of operations, and if that's the case, I'm planning a potential subsidy of up to $665,700, which will have to come from somewhere. So general fund right now is a designated fund. It's shown here as a negative because right now I have it in the plan for it to pay for all of it, but if it can't, then it won't transfer up to that amount, $665,000. Transfers are done typically twice a year, end of January, beginning of May, after tax payments are received and funding is available. Provided are the tables for each transfer and purpose laid out, and which areas are impacted and which associated accounts are used for each of those areas. It's a pretty in-depth cost allocation plan. This is a summary of it, actually, but it's 14 pages. It's pretty cool, but I kept it summarized for this purpose. If there's any questions about it.
I have a question.
Yes.
So the VOZs, have we had any more talks about what we're going to do to overcome the funding dilemma? They don't collect enough to pay for what needs to be done?
We did, right? So we researched, outreached, figure out what the community felt about right? And so based on those findings, it didn't seem like a new tax measure would fly, and so we bailed on that as a solution. We're trying our best to keep the budget within the amount, and so as far as another solution, I mean, we haven't fully talked about one except maybe a potential park bond in the future to help out, but not directly, no.
So I think he answered the question. Is the plan, knowing what we had gone out to and it was not going to most likely pass the threshold of us getting the money, we decided to abandon ship.
Yeah.
We had done that maybe 2 years ago. But in the feasibility studies that we have out there currently, once we get the results of those feasibility studies, we will also be looking at areas district-wide for us to add to the bond request at that time. So that is what I see in the near future as the next vehicle to jump into to hopefully address some of those concerns in the VOZ, and not only in the VOZ, but really district-wide.
And we also, since the budget was adopted, or not adopted yet, but since we started creating it, we changed companies that manage the corridors and trails out there, and so that contract is actually less than it was the previous year. So I'm hoping the savings is going to be there. That's why I say up to that amount. I'm hoping we don't have to do subsidy at all, but I have to see exactly what that savings and cost is going to be from that contract.
Yeah, I mean, my only general concern is that, yeah, they think everything is fine out there.
Yeah.
But they also don't realize we're pulling from other areas to keep it looking the way it looks. If we only spent the amount of money we collected in there, I don't think they would be so happy. So,
And we might get to that point, right, where the general fund's not going to support it, and then maybe we do levels of service change, and it does have a different look. I don't know, but we're not quite there yet.
okay.
Yeah.
So did you give an amount on how much you're anticipating that you're going to pull from general fund, or was that?
So if I base it off last year's
Yeah.
cost, right, so that's what I did it, but then the contract changed in the midterm since we've done the budget projections. I'm hoping, I haven't done the full math on what the contract will look like over the year to see if that's going to be enough to maybe not have this gap. So I'm hoping it's not, but if it's going to be the same as last year, plus, some additional costs, this would be the big subsidy right here.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, I'm hoping it won't have to get to that point, but we'll see. All right. Next slide provides a summary of reserves and fund balance in each fund type. The general fund is on pace to be almost $7 million in the reserves, which is amazing. We get about $7 million in tax revenue, so it's 100% funded is how I look at it. And that covers our expenses from July to January until we get our tax payment. It includes some emergency funds, anything for unforeseen circumstances, and contingency funding. So very pleased where the general fund reserves are at. Combined, the assessment districts have $2.5 million in there, so that's enough to cover any kind of additional unforeseen operations that we have in parking facilities in the tank. Golf course has $100,000. It's not much, but it's an enterprise fund that typically cash flow is money in that month and money out that month, and it just takes care of itself. It pretty much nets out zero, but it's doing amazing. It's bringing in revenue. I think last month was $196,000 for the month. It was fantastic. But of course, it has expenses, and so that one usually carries about $100,000. The U.S. Bank Fund, that's a reserve account that we mandatory or required to have. When we took out the 2018 COP, as an amount we just had to set aside, and that sits there until the end of the termination of the COP in 2048. So that last payment will just come out of that fund, and so it'll just sit there the whole entire time. Sun Creek is very unique. It's a holding account, and so this involves multiple developers, some contributing Quimby land, they're called the over-dedicators, and others contributing money. They're not contributing any land, so they're called the underland dedicators. And so we're kind of being the middle agency where they pay money, we hold on to it, and then we buy the land when we acquire it later on at fair value. So in the end, it's a wash, but CRPD ends up with the required Quimby land that we need. The Capital Improvements Project Fund is where we will run our projects from moving forward, and has about $8 million in it, so we're taking 3 out next year. So I'm hoping to fund it and use it, fund it and use it as we go, but that'll be the fund that manages our projects, and so it has a pretty good base to move forward for future improvement projects. And then development, we have 2 accounts, one with the city, one with the county. If you can see, there's obviously a lot of activity in the city at $36 million, which is a lot. At $50,000 in the county, not much going on there. But we're going to be drawing about $7 million is our plan next year for those development projects that we talked about out of that 36. So that 29 will be carried over for other park projects coming down the line. Okay, so $54.6 million in reserves. So that's amazing. Any question about reserves or fund balances? All right.
Actually, yes, Matt. When did we get back to actually, I mean, it's been a while now, but when did we go from not having any reserves to now we've got 54.5 million?
Yeah.
Wasn't that long ago.
I was curious about that too, so I actually took a look at what our reserves were in the last 10 years. And it only took me to get to 2017, and we had $298,000 to start the year in our general fund in 2017.
Okay.
And now we have 6.8. Incredible, yeah. So that's 3 or 4. It's been pretty heavy. It was 2.6 about 5 years ago. So,
Thank you.
yep. So it's right where I want it to be. Yeah, good curiosity. Like I said, it hit me too. I'm like, what was it like? All right, next up is we have the 80s. Again, the best decade ever, right? Commodities. This group represents purchases made in the resale to the public. Again, it's about $114,000, $105 coming from the pro shop. And they're doing really well. We have an expectation of being profitable about 100% of that, so we're looking at about $220,000 in revenue on top of that cost of $114,000. And I took a look at this year where we're at, and they're actually 3 times right now of what they paid. And so they have spent about $62,000. They have like $185,000 in revenue already. So lights out at the golf shop. So no problems there, no major shifts or changes. And then boom, the flip side of the ledger, the 90s, revenue and resources. Community facility districts, CFDs, that represents the largest chunk of money that we depend on, and that's good because it's fixed. It's not tied to property tax, and it's $8.7 million or 27% of our budget. Property tax and park impact fees are the next 2. At 21% each, it's $6.7 million, $6.9 million. So that's a pretty big chunk coming from those 3 areas. And then we have a list on the right that are also contribute to our resources. That's the project fund, recreation cost recovery fees, our golf course revenue, landscape and lighting districts, PMID, Mather, resale revenue, grants. We only have one major grant, $500,000 that are coming forward. Grants are hard to come by, right, with the uncertainty about federal and state and things that are going on. But I will say our staff is still seeking and researching grants, even though we're not recognizing it. I don't want to recognize it until we are guaranteed it, but they are definitely looking for major leveraged grants for some other potential future projects. So if they happen, we'll do a mid-year budget adjustment. Hopefully it's 100% funded. If not, 50%. We'll talk about how we're going to pay for that to get those things done. So right now, their grants are off the table. What else? We got other revenue, which is interest revenue, donations, sponsorships, insurance claim proceeds, and any kind of surplus sale that we do of our assets, and miscellaneous. So that rounds it out. Note that 80% of our resources come from taxes, and that's typical of all our previous years and other peer districts. That's the model they operate off of, about 8% taxes, and then you have to find cost recovery and fees, and the other 20%. That's what we do. So. All right. Final message. So I'm pleased to say this budget is balanced. It includes a thoughtful operation spending plan, has a capital improvement plan of 38 projects, design and development of 7 new parks, completion of feasibility studies for the center property and the Mather Sports Complex, and supports equipment and fleet plan for parks and golf course. It budgets for debt payments to satisfy the creditors and investors. It's very important to keep them happy. Potential subsidy for VOZ, potential. General fund, again, operate without need to borrow from the county and pay interest on a negative fund balance, which is awesome. Again, never going back to 2017, so. And celebrating 67 years of providing quality service to our community and making our time matter, right? And that's the end of my presentation for the workshop portion of tonight. More to come. Any comments, questions, accolades?
I just have a question about ADA accessible walkways. Is that something that we go out as a organization and assess who, is this on?
Yeah.
Is that us?
Yeah.
Are we being recorded?
No, that was, I didn't have to
You
put
had
it
it
on.
up on your phone.
I was trying to find the board packet. So does the staff go out and look at these things, or they wait for people to address them that we need this?
A few years ago, we did an ADA transition plan, so we had a company go through like literally everything from doors, counters, spaces, parking, everything that we have. They went with drones, took a look at our roofs. They looked at everything. And so they gave us that list of what we needed to take care of over time. And so anytime we do a project, the ones and twos we knew we had to tackle regardless of it tied to a project. But anytime we do a project, we take a look at that plan and see what can be done as part of that plan. So we do include anything ADA as part of that process.
I do know, I noticed that you're addressing the lights out at Lincoln Village Ballpark. But I've heard a couple of comments out there that it's not ADA accessible. There's no way to get a wheelchair to that park. Is there? There's no walkway to it.
Oh, sure, yes. Yeah.
Finance guys like, yeah.
Park Planning Development Manager Laura Taylor.
Yes, so that ADA transition plan, if I were to go look at what they call the records or the non-compliance items that the consultant has identified, I'm sure that's one of them, So we can't afford to do everything all at once to make everything ADA accessible. We did change out all the walkways at Lincoln Village. We have made a number of accessible modifications at Lincoln Village, but we're also trying to hit other parks as well and just trying to spread it around. We have 20 years to complete all the records to make them to make them compliant, and We're about 25% through all of the records that were identified by the consultants, so we are definitely making positive progress because we're about 5 years into the plan.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there's no, since there's lights out there, the ball field is used a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
every time if I go out there during the evening, someone's using that field. And I guess if you did have any difficulties getting there, the closest you can park is on the street. But you're walking over grass to get there, and I don't know how well that's lit for someone to walk to the
Right.
field. I just kind of worry about people walking to somewhere to watch a
Right.
game under lights,
yeah.
you know. So I just want to put it on your radar. that
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
Any questions for Andrea or Terry? No? No?
Do you want to go down the list of the boards and see
Yeah,
if
any
any comments, questions?
board members have any other questions?
My
Michael?
question's been answered, thank you.
I don't have any questions. Another job well done. Good job.
Danny?
Yeah, looking forward to a good year.
No, I'd say thank you for making it so, I know when dealing with numbers and stuff, it can be, some people look at it and go, whoa, that's too much, but this was
Digestible.
fairly easy to digest, to understand, to read, so thank you, appreciate it, great job.
That account in the U.S. Bank, we get interest on that account sitting there?
Yeah, so we borrowed actually 5.5 million and 316,000 went towards that reserve, and then the other was costs that were involved with the loan. So we got 5 million in cash net, right, to go towards the project. And it does, it gets interest about $1,000 a month, and that goes towards our payment. So that $300,000 payment that we have, I just take $1,000 off each month to pay it, yeah.
Great, all right, thank you.
Yep.
That
Any
would
other
be,
questions?
would be true of all of
Anybody
the
else?
accounts, right?
Oh, yeah, all the accounts are
Same with the
positive.
Park impact fee one and all that.
Unless the general fund was negative back in 2017, we'd actually pay
We're never
interest.
going back.
Never going back.
Right.
I'd just like to say congrats to the team. It's a group effort for the budget. It takes quite a while, a lot of meetings, but Matt, your leadership in this area is beyond commendable. The GFOA award that we received is a really big thing, and so we'll be announcing that and celebrating that at the regular board meeting this evening. But amazing job to Matt and all of the staff, so thank you. It's great.
Appreciate it. Did we get cake or anything with the award, or no? Fireworks?
Maybe we'll give you an award.
It's
What
cake
does
in the budget.
GFOA stand for?
Government Finance Officers Association has 25,000 members worldwide. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Woo.
It's been around since 1906.
Wow, that's great. Almost as long as me.
Almost.
Oldest person here, I think I am. I couldn't say anybody else. Well, thanks. for-
Yeah, we'll do this again at the regular scheduled meeting, just a little bit more summarized, but yeah.
So now what?
We can adjourn.
Are we going to adjourn?
Yeah.
Call them, tell them to do it sooner?
Yeah.
No one will be there. Well, thank you very much, and I'd like to adjourn this special meeting of the preliminary budget at 5:08.
Congratulations to your kids, Rick.
Thank you, 5:08 PM.
Ta-da.